If you encounter any technical issues, you can contact us in the chat or directly at the email project@efab.info. I would also like to let you know that in a couple of weeks we will have the 4th episode of our webinar series that will be focused on advancing animal health through microbiome research. It will take place on the 10th of June. So if you don't want to miss the opportunity, we will promote it on our social channels as well, but you can already access the registration form through this QR code here. And last but not least, EFAB is the coordinator at the moment of the dissemination efforts of EcoGen. And we have many projects. We're working many other projects that might be interesting for you. So if you would like to know more about our organization, or if you would like to know more about the projects we're involved in, you can scan this QR code. So I would like to give now the floor to Danijel, sorry, to Jack. And yeah, Jack, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Here we are. So I'm the first of this this webinar, and on the next slide. Yeah, there it is. Is the title. Impact of genomic selection on genetic diversity in 5 local cattle breeds. It's the work we did in Wageningen, part of the diversity work package, and I did it together with my colleagues Renzo Bonifazi, Gwendoel Restou, Pascal Croiseau, Theo Meeuwse, and Stephanie Mineri. On the next slide is the genomic selection. Well, genetic diversity in local cattle populations. One of the problems is that if you have strong selection, that can lead to high inbreeding rates, and associated with that is a loss of genetic diversity. And on top of that, you can have inbreeding depression and the risk of expression of genetic defects. And that happens especially in small populations, as many of the local populations are. And now there has been a development in animal breeding, and that is the use of genomic selection. So the use of DNA to predict the breeding values at the birth of animals. And the main question we tried to tackle was whether the inbreeding rates changed after the introduction of genomic selection in these local breeds. And why we did that is on the next screen. The next slide. What was noted was that there were changes in inbreeding rates after the introduction of genomic selection. Genomic selection, it started to be applied, well, around 2008. And what you generally see is that the larger genetic gains and shorter generation intervals, and the expectation was that the inbreeding rate, the delta F, went down. And that is because you can use the Mendelian sampling variation better. However, when we analyzed, and the graph is from Harmen Duker's work from the Netherlands, was that after the introduction of genomic selection, which is indicated with the arrow, instead of going down, the inbreeding rate, it went up. You see that after that, and that's in 3 ways measured here, the lines go steeper up. And that was not only in the Netherlands in the Holstein, but also several other researchers, and also in the Jersey and the Finnish Ayrshire, this happened. But then there were other breeds, the Normande and the Montbéliarde and the Aberdeen Angus, where it didn't go up. So yeah, basically what happened there was the question, and what happens in local breeds. So we set out with 5 local breeds, and they are on the next slide. One in the Netherlands, that's the MRI. One in Norway, the Norwegian Red, and 3 French breed, the Abondance, Tarentaise, and Vosgien. From these 5 cattle breeds, and then on the next slide, we had pedigrees, and we had genotypes. The largest of the breeds was the Norwegian Red, and the smallest was the Vosgen, and the others were a bit in between. We had pedigree data, extensive pedigree data, and on different animals we had genotypes, SNP chip genotypes. So for all of them, we could analyze before the introduction of genomic selection and after the introduction of genomic selection, although that last one was a bit short period. But in this way, we could compare the inbreeding and the inbreeding rates before and after the introduction of genomic selection. So on the next slide, I will show now one by one the different breeds. What happened to the inbreeding? On the y-axis, you can see the inbreeding coefficient and a kinship coefficient, and then over the years. And each time it's with the blue line. That's the time of the introduction of genomic selection. Now in the MRI, and these are all the animals that are in the pedigree, whether genotyped or not. And in the MRI, we saw a steady increase in the inbreeding over the years, up to 2013, and then it started to go down. And that was at the time that the company started to use optimal contributions. But then after the introduction of genomic selection, both the kinship and the inbreeding went up a bit. Now these were all the animals, and when we looked with the genotypes, and that's on the next slide. Oh yeah. So sorry. Here are the inbreeding rates themselves. So they went. They were close to 0.5% up to when the optimal contributions started. Then they went down, the inbreeding rate, negative inbreeding rate, and in the last part it was 0.5%. So then on the next slide is the genotyped animals only, and that's of course a smaller sample. So that's why it's a bit irregular. It goes up and down. But overall, we see more or less the same pattern that it went up before 2013. And then if we calculate it with rows of homozygosity, the inbreeding rate, it went down. It's 0.606, but with the pedigree, it didn't really decrease. But the increase after the introduction of genomic selection, we saw as well. So this was in the MRI, and if we go on the next slide to the Norwegian Red, the pattern is a bit similar. That before 2000 it clearly went up, then it more or less stabilized. And that's also at the time that they started to use optimal selection, especially after 2010. And then we see that the kinship really goes down while the inbreeding still goes up a bit. And after the introduction of genomic selection, well, the kinship continues to go down, and the inbreeding stays more or less at the same rate. So if we look at these with the genotyped animals, which is in the next slide, yeah, then the picture is a bit different with the rows of homozygosity. So that's the genotype. Then well, it's almost stable. Well, there's a slight increase after the introduction of genomic selection. The kinship, yeah, it was a bit the same as for the for all animals, went up before 2014 and then down, and it continued to go down, but a bit less. And the pedigree inbreeding, it went down, but less after 2014. So on the next slide is the for the French breeds, all three at the same time, and here we also see a bit mixed results. For the abondance, that's the top one. After the introduction of genomic selection, the inbreeding rates were going down. The slopes were less steep, and that was especially the case for the genotyped animals, where it went down from above 2% to 0.6. The Tarentaise, it's the opposite. Since instead of going down, it went up there, and especially for the inbreeding, so a higher inbreeding rate. And with the first gen, it continued to go up, but it was clearly less. The inbreeding rates were lower, and that was especially for the genotypes, for the rows of homozygosity. So if we on the next slide. Here we summarized all the results, and in red are those where it went up, and in green where it went down, and in yellow it's stable, and some of them are a bit in between. So it is clearly a mixed pattern. We cannot conclude that with the introduction of genomic selection that the inbreeding rates go up or go down. There's a lot more going on. And then I come to the conclusion on the next slide. The inbreeding rates either they go up, go down, or they stay the same. What we did see overall was that the generation intervals were clearly shorter, as expected. We also saw that the more individuals were screened, and the pre-selection of sires that was lower. So genomic selection leads to earlier selection of the sires. But the main thing is that what we did see was the influence of genetic management, and that was much larger than the implementation of genomic selection per se. So the conclusion is for local breeds, well, for any breed, the genetic management is really important, and in this case, it was the introduction of optimal contributions, or in the French breed, the abondance, where they introduced a new bull, an old bull from the gene bank that led to a decrease of the inbreeding rates. So the genetic management is much more important. And on the other hand, it is always wise to keep on monitoring your inbreeding levels and rates, even after the introduction of genomic selection. So that was my my talk. Thank you.
Okay, Jack, thank you very much for the really interesting presentation. So now I will give the floor then to Andreia. So Andreia, if you would like to already share your screen.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you, EFAB, for this invitation, and good morning to the speakers of today and to everybody that is online. So I'm going to talk to you about precision genomics for the valorization of local genomic resources, related with some of the work that we are doing in the framework of Geronimo projects, but also in the framework of other collaborations that here at University of Evora we have with other breeder associations. So in Geronimo projects, well, when we designed the project, we had I think a good idea of what we needed for the local breeds in terms of basic science and also in terms of applied science in creating solutions for farmers. Still, we thought it was very important to survey the stakeholders, at least in the countries that were participating in the consortium. And so we had 550 stakeholders surveyed in a task that was led by Marie-José Mercat from IFIP, and we asked all the farmers and other relevant stakeholders in industry and in the production chain about quality labels, concerns of local breed sustainability, of risks, of what were the motivations for genetic diversity, and was what if there was some interest for selection potential, and also if there was an interest for training. So the main answer, so several countries were assayed, and also the different numbers that we got from responses. Also, it's also reflects in some countries about the need for the farmers, and also in other countries they reflect that from some local breeds they are restricted to a very reduced number of farmers. We have a large the largest responses that we got were from France and from Portugal. And in Portugal, I must address and acknowledge the participation of Amoeba, a breeder association that is focused in some local breeds of cattle that we have in North Portugal, and in local breed populations, local chicken populations. And then the Bizero association, which focuses on helping to enhance the Bizero production, a local pig breed of Portugal. So has future risks. They are has in chicken and in pigs. The local breeders, they are concerned with the desires of breed consumers, with the sanitary regulation, and the need for being a label that that is protected according to the product, because they produce a high value product, but that sometimes still in the market it's confused with other types of products. And the expectations for which they feel that they need support is in with research, but in chicken is the most significant ones with the lack of human means. And for pigs, for local pigs, it's the need for close slaughterhouses. And this is a brief summary. And the most interesting thing is that the farmers, so most of these breeds, they don't have a selection program yet, but they are interested in selection. They want to select for reproduction traits and for production traits, but they find obstacles. And some of these obstacles are related with lack of knowledge and lack of training. So 74% to 79%, they want to be part of Geronimo's communities regarding to training. And in Portugal, we have already set up a training last year that was targeted to technicians of breeder associations, for them to learn how to design and evaluate populations. So for those who don't know, Portugal is located in a biodiversity hotspot. So Portugal is part of the Mediterranean basin that that harbors 25% of the goat breeds of the world, near 28% of the sheep breeds of the world, and 15% of the bovine breeds of the world. And a quarter of this is located in Portugal. So here on your right, you can see it's a simplified map of geography of Portugal. And you can see that in the north of Tagus River, we have mountain chain. It's a greener part of the country. Where is it in the southern part? It's drier. It's also green. It's there where we have the cork oak trees. So we have a large diversity regarding to geography, regarding with the differences of type of natural resources, and that's where we could inherit this high richness of breeds. And of course, we also have chicken breeds, the Amarela, Branca, Padrez Portuguesa, and Preta Lusitana, and 3 pig breeds, the Lentejano, Bizarro, and Malhado da Alcobaça, which we are characterizing deeply for the first time in Geronimo project. So for you to have an idea on how the evolution of the conservation programs in Portugal. So in 1980s, we had many breeds were at risk. So there was the start of the national program for the conservation for some local breeds. There was not enough resources, though they had to start with a few breeds. So, but for a few breeds, we have pedigree records since 1980. Since the 1990s, with Portugal joined EU, so it was established, there was occurred the establishment of breeder associations, and this program could be enlarged to a larger set of breeds. In 2006, a database which is called GenePro was created by a private company that currently has clients in Portugal and US, in South America, and in Africa. Ruralbit, in Portugal, it harbors 88 herd books for different breeds, has thousands of animals that are registered. And in 2010, the germ bank for animals was created. So in Geronimo, we are focusing on chicken pig breeds, the Amarela and the Preta Lusitanica, the Padrez Portuguesa and the Branca. And I show here Virginia Ribeiro, who is a technician that has been working for several years with this breed. She alone and with a lot of also some support from Rui Dantas, who is not in the breeder association anymore. She visits alone farmers. She scores the animals. She has done a brilliant work, and this brilliant work is translated in the fact that the some of breeds, so the Amarela.
Конференція онлайн та.
I'm sorry. Someone, can I continue?
I muted them, Andreia. Please go
Okay.
on.
Okay, sorry. I didn't understand it if there was a question. So I will go on. So in Amarela, the program started in 2004, and Preta Lusitanica also in 2004, and as well in Padrez Portuguesa, and in the Branca it started in 2011. And the numbers are very small for you to see, but they started in Branca, for example, they started with 5 breeders, and today they have 96 breeders. So the number of breeders has fluctuated over time. Today, in regards to Amarela, we have less breeders than we had in the beginning, and this is related with the fact that many of our breeders are getting old. But also the good thing and is that they are being replaced by young breeders, which are very eager to collaborate and to get new knowledge and to apply new knowledge into the management of their breeding program. And we have today the start of creation of brands which are related with this local with the production of these local breeds, like Minha Terra, like Reforma Agraria, which allows the direct interaction between the consumer and the breeder. And in Reforma Agraria, you can buy the eggs of these farmers, and Minha Terra, you can have access to have in your store, and to the eggs and the meat of these breeds. Mostly they are dual purpose. In terms of breeding rate, the inbreeding rate is at fabulous values. So you can see that in the beginning, for example here, For the Preta lusitanica, it was over 1% of the breeding rate. It's currently in 0.01. So the Farmer Association has been doing a great job along with farmers. And what we are going to do with the Geronimo meeting project, besides doing a deep characterization of genetic diversity and epigenetic diversity, we are continuing to help the association with a critical issue that they have. So they have herd books, which is great, but their herd books are mainly records of sires. So they have the record of who is the father, but the chick never know who is the mother. So we know who is the mother among like 10 possible mothers that are together with the rooster. And so we are working with them to estimate the index for rooster using a sire model, and with using the genotyping that we are going to perform, we are going to try to see if we can improve it a bit using a single step GBLUB. But more importantly is that we are going to identify a set of SNPs for them, that so that in the future they can do paternity testing and they can start to have a better pedigree. Regarding to pigs, so Portugal exports of pigs, of pork products have increased over the years, and they are a part of the apart from cork, a good part of our agricultural production. Our main client is Spain. That's many that buys animals from Alentejano, which is a strain of Iberian pig, and then the animals are processed there. The second biggest client is China, and the third client is Angola. And what we want is to increase that, to have a complete value chain in Portugal. So, and fortunately, those we have new industrial enterprises working now, like Maporal, which is works from the from the meat to the product, and it's exporting a lot to China. Casa of Porco Preto, which is a very old brand, typical from Barrancos, and Cell, which is a company that sells fresh meats and also pork derived products. But although we have a good herd book for the Alentejano pig, we have a good and low inbreeding. This is inbreeding rate that is quite low, and it's been estimated using the genotyping analysis that we did for within Geronimo. We have it's a breed with low prolificacy and low fertility rate. So within Geronimo, we have performed an experiment in which we are comparing our low fertility breed with high fertility and high prolificacy commercial lines. We are studying the uterus tissue, characterizing DNA methylation and RNA expression in order to characterize the role of epigenetic to develop knowledge and a possible set of markers that can be used for marker-assisted selection or epigenetic marker-assisted selection, so that we can increase prolificacy. So prolificacy is a trait with low heritability. It has been improved for commercial breeds, but they started in 1990, so had that 20 years, and we don't have 20 years. But today we have new knowledge and we have new ways that genomics and omics technologies can work for the farmers and can produce novel tests to help to speed the process. Finally, I would like to show what we have been doing with another breed, a cattle breed, Garvonesa. So that is led by Antonio Pires, is the head of association, and it's a breed that has a huge reduction on animals. Many years ago, it was spread all over the south of Portugal. It's a very strong animal with quite of a wild behavior, and it was used for helping to work the land. Today, it's a breed that's used for meat production, and they have been quite fierceful, and they they have pedigrees, but pedigrees that are based on recording by farmers, and it's a breed that is bred in extensive system. So 2 males with several females on the open space. So we have started to generate a reference population genotype with HD SNP chip. So it's a SNP chip which has a high density of 700,000 SNPs. And for 119 animals, we have reproducers. We have genotyped the kin as well as the dam and the sire. And what we are doing is correcting the paternity records, because this is crucial for so that we can do proper genetic evaluation and management of the breeds. So finally, in Portugal, fortunately, we have so many herd books for most of our local breeds, but unfortunately, we have so few phenotypes. So in summary, we are working in genomics, and we are showing to farmers how genomics and we can use different strategies to enable the valorization of our local breeds. Genomics, although, does not replace the farmer, and we need farmers to breed animals and for phenotype collection together with industry, and so that we can load to our database in GenePro. So at the University of Evora, I am very happy to tell you that we just are starting a project which is led by my colleague Elisa Bittencourt, which is called the GenePro Improve. So we will have a brand new embryo center for cattle, embryo center for small ruminants, and genomics and breeding center, a testing center where we will be able to do feed efficiency trials, evaluation and selection of breeding animals for small and large ruminants, and a knowledge transfer center for associations and producers. Finally, I would just like to thank to all Geronimo partners, but in special to Frédéric Pitel and Tatiana Zerjal for believing me, a young, not so young, but still a young researcher and genomics, and for believing in our ability to contact farmers and to do also, besides basic science, farmer related work. To my colleagues of the biodiversity work package that is led by Marie-José Mercat, and in which I also collaborate with Gwendal Gestu. And finally, because last week it was the farewell of my promoter at Wageningen University, of course, I'm able to do all of this and to be here so enthusiastic about the work that we are doing in Portugal. Thanks to all these guys, to Richard Kruijmans, to Annie Heuven, and to Hendrikian Megens. And I couldn't do this talk without having the opportunity to acknowledge them too, of course. So thank you so much for your attention. And please feel free to ask any question.
Thank you very much, Andreia, for the really nice and comprehensive overview that you gave. And indeed, as you mentioned, yeah, so we have a question from the chat. I think since we are on perfect timing right now, we can keep it for later on. But please, if you have comments and questions, we will address them during the Q&A session. Yeah, feel free to use the chat. And now I will give the floor to Marjeta. So please, Marjeta, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I also had to unmute myself. So hello, everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about the multifunctionality of local pig breeds in light of sustainable pig production. I'm also involved in Geronimo project. Agricultural Institute of Slovenia works on Krško polje pig, which will be later presented by Andreia, and we are addressing the optimal contribution selection with this breed and also optimization of diets to be more sustainable. But today I will not talk so much about the Slovenian local pig breed, but rather in a more general context, what is their place in sustainable pig production. As you know, meat production faces enormous societal challenges to align with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals towards a healthier diet and environmental protection. And it has been acknowledged that the current food system is inefficient because we don't produce what we should eat. So we don't produce, we are not aligned with healthy human diet. So we need to transform food system towards healthier diets and more sustainable food production. What will the future of pig production look like? What will pig production have to answer to? Well, it has been recognized that the use and availability of land is recognized as one of the main limitations for agricultural production, and animal production will have to be limited to available land and to be more in line with natural conditions. And feed autonomy will be key for the sustainability of pig production system. However, pigs also have one good attribute, and that is that they can exploit non-human edible feeds or byproducts. So the future pig production or pork production will have to meet broader societal benefits, aligning with consumer demands for responsible and beneficial food sources. Where is the place of local pig breeds? Local autochthonous pig breeds represent a very small share of pig production. For the European Union, we can estimate that it is probably below 5%, and the main representative of this is Iberian pig production, which is the most developed. The other breeds in Europe are rather untapped, but they represent a heritage of agricultural diversity, not only in terms of biodiversity, genetic diversity, but also diversity of production systems. They also have a cultural value. They're incorporated in tradition. They provide high quality products. However, these breeds have low productivity. They're not competitive compared to genetically improved breeds. And that's why we faced in the history that many of them were lost, extinct, and many of them still remain endangered. However, their attributes show their advantages in terms of multifunctionality. As already said, they're important for preserving genetic biodiversity, but also diversity of production systems. In certain cases, they can even help preserving typical landscape, like the case of Iberian pigs and the Heza. They provide us with high quality traditional products. However, they are raised in small-scale production systems, mainly low-input, extensive production systems, and they are very well adapted to local agroclimatic conditions. They are more robust. They can use better the locally available feeding resources, and they are more modest. Their nutritional requirements are also different. They have lower requirements for protein. And in respect of feed food competition, this is an important advantage. They are also mainly produced in local production systems, in short supply chains. So they are important in support to maintaining agricultural activity and rural development. And how do local breeds align with consumer and societal expectations? A recent analytical review of many studies with consumers showed that the top 5 quality cues for the consumer are referring to extrinsic attributes. Consumers show preference for meat that is locally produced. And with relation to pork, what came out of this study was that the most important cues are safety, origin, and quality labels. The studies show that consumers prefer high welfare-based products. And we can see from the illustration that local pig breeds are perceived and also related to the systems where welfare is considered as enhanced. Consumers also show preference for non-intensive systems, which again is how the local pig breeds are raised. They are using local feeding resources. They can use many byproducts. So they are very important in reducing the food and feed competition, especially as their requirements for protein are also different and more importantly, lower. Consumers also demand environmentally responsible meat products. So how do local pig breeds answer to that request? In general, the greenhouse gas emissions of pig production are lower than in production of other red meats. However, local pig breeds show higher impact than in intensively reared pigs if we consider the functional unit, the kilogram of live weight. However, if we considered the functional unit, a hectare of land in use, so based on more micro level, then local breeds show advantages, in particular in terms of acidification and eutrophication. And also, as their systems and products are usually in short supply chains, it is also an important point for lower emissions. And of course, the intrinsic qualities are important as well. So not only that it is local food, as we saw, which becomes the most important extrinsic cue for the consumers, but eating quality as well is valorized in these breeds. And many of products with regional identity, many of geographically protected products are connected with local pig breeds. So to summarize, due to their multifunctionality, local pig breeds, of course, including the production systems in which they are raised, correspond well to both consumer expectations regarding the quality and societal expectations and goals for sustainable livestock systems. Preservation of local breeds very often is related or depending on subsidies that are given by regions for gene banks. But of course, the best conservational strategy is an optimal utilization of local breeds. So in that respect, we still have a lot to do because the most of them remain untapped and their use should to be improved and enhanced. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Marjeta. Great presentation. Now we will move on, and thank you very much for keeping the timing perfect. Now we'll move on the local experiences. So we will have the presentation of Danijel. So I think this is not the correct one. Just one second, and then Danijel, the floor is yours. Soon the presentation will be on the screen.
Thank you. Of course, I would like to thank you for inviting me to participate in this webinar. And please, can you share the screen for me, Kalja?
Yes. Okay. It is here now. Sorry. Just finding the share screen. Okay.
Thank you, Jaap.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thanks. Please further. So my name is Danijel Karolyi, and I'm coming from University of Zagreb, Faculty of Agriculture, and we are participating in the Geronimo project. So today I will give you a brief overview of current status and some perspectives and challenges in conservation of local Croatian pig breeds. Please next. So Croatia, as you know, is a quite small country, but we have a long list of indigenous domestic animal breeds, including 3 local pig breeds. So you can see them here. We have this Turopolje pig and Banija spotted pig, which are originated in the central Croatia. And then we have this Black Slavonian pig in the Slavonia region, which is on the eastern part of Croatia, which is the part of the Pannonian plain. Next. So just a short introduction with these breeds. Black Slavonian was created in the 19th century by Count Pfeiffer, so it's often called Pfeiffer pig, and he crossed swallow belly Mangalica sows with Berkshire and Poland, China, and at that time this pig was really advanced, and it was awarded with a golden medal in the World Exhibition in Vienna, and later it was also improved with a Cornwall breed. So main purpose is meat and fat, and it's very well known for high intramuscular fat content. Of course, as other local breeds, high resistance, longevity, and adaptability are the traits of this breed. Next. So here are the trends in the population size. You can see that unfortunately in the last few years there is a decline in the number of animals and also the number of breeders. And one of the main reasons for that was the outbreak of African swine fever in Croatia in 2023. And you can see here that according to the FAO, this breed has a vulnerable status now. Next. Turopolje is one of the oldest pig breeds, not only in Croatia, but in general in Europe, as it dates back in the early Middle Ages, and it is a typical primitive late maturing breed, which proposes to produce meat, and it's very, very modest in requirements. It has good foraging ability, but otherwise its production traits are really modest. Next. So this breed is endangered in status, and these numbers are really small. And unfortunately, we also had one outbreak of another disease and one big farm, Wageningen disease. So these numbers are also decreasing in later years. Next. Banija spotted pig was created between 19th and 20th century by crossing Turopolje and probably other local sows with Berkshire boars, and later it was also improved with the German Edelschwein breed. So it is more modern breed, I should say, than these 2 previous one, a bit larger body frame, and it's early maturing with higher prolificacy. Next. So that breed was started to be restituted in 2014, and in 2018 it was recognized as the third autonomous pig breeding ratio. So we can see that since then we have a constant increase in the numbers, except this last year, but this is actually the situation in pig breeding sector, which was hit by this African swine fever. So many of breeders start to giving up. Next. So legal framework of conservation is, of course, according to the EU regulation from 2016, and we have a national regulation. I will not go into detail of these laws, so we can go on the next slide, where you can see the organizational structure of the National Program for the Conservation. It is run by the ministry, and there is several bodies which are included in that program. Of course, there is a gene bank, and we also have the samples of all three pig breeds, which are conserved in the cryoconservation. However, the main practical bodies which are included in conservation are recognized breeding association, which run the approved breeding programs. Next. And you can see here, these are the local pig breeders associations for Turopolje pig, for Black Slavonia, and for Banija spotted pig. And in all these breeding programs, basically the aims are similar. They are pointed to preservation of genetic and phenotypical characteristics, of course, in accordance to the traditional husbandry for these breeds and to the specific functional traits like resistance, longevity, adaptation to other systems. They all aim to enlarge breeding population, but maintaining the genetic diversity and avoiding the higher degrees of inbreeding. And of course, they want to improve breeding, farming condition, feeding, some traits, for example, fertility, and other traits. But for other traits, this is maybe just on the paper still. Next. They all are bred in pure blood, according to the pedigree data and the degree relationship, which is allowed at maximum 10%. Crossbreeding is only permitted for commercial crosses intended for slaughter, and mating is either individual or a group of sows and boars are housed for mating, which is most often and most common in these outdoor systems. Artificial insemination is allowed, but is rarely practiced. Next. As a part of the conduction of breeding programs, there is evaluation of young boars and gilts. So these are the candidates for the breeding animals, and this test is done at the age of 10 to 12 months. They have to come from the known parents with production data. There are some limits which should be fulfilled. There is also assessment of phenotype for a scale of 1 to 5 for typical exterior body frame and expression of breeding traits. Also some morphological defects, for example, white color in the Black Slavonian pig, or too small body frame, hernias, or for example, cryptorchidism or other degeneration are the reason to exclude these animals at the test. Next. Genetic testing is performed for malignant hyperthermia for all breeds, and in addition, there is analysis of microsatellites for Banija spotted pig. That was very important during the breed restoration to confirm the breed affiliation, but today is also practicing to check parentage and inbreeding and to support the mating plans. Next. So what are the main prospects and challenges? As we heard before from Meta, of course, always it is the valorization of these breeds through the high value-added products. This is particularly important because these breeds have a positive public image because they fit very well in the biodiversity and sustainable agriculture agenda. Of course, they have a superior meat quality and product quality, and these products are highly appreciated at local markets. So we promote this breed, for example, through the European Union geographical indication marks, and we today have a PDO, protected designation of origin, for meat of Black Slavonian and meat of Turopolje pig breed, and also some products for Black Slavonian pig are carrying the protected geographical indication mark. So all this can support more economical, sustainable conservation of these breeds. Next. Of course, there is prospects to improve genetic evaluation and selection for other traits, not just for fertility. But as you know, it's very difficult and highly expensive to measure phenotype in these systems. Another limiting factor is small population size, lack of resources, and of course there is always this basic conflict between genetic improvement and a task to preserve genetic diversity. As Jack also mentioned at the start, there is some solution like optimal contribution selections, algorithms which can maximize genetic gain while minimizing inbreeding, but due to the small population, incomplete pedigrees, lack of breeding values evaluation, it is not so easy to implement at this moment in our cases. Next. Of course, the main problem or main challenge was the recent outbreak of African swine fever in Croatia. So we had these first cases in 2023, and since then we have it both in domestic pigs and in wild boars throughout 2024, and the last case was in February this year. You can see here, this is the area on the far east, which bordering with Bosnia and Serbia. And of local breeds, there is Black Slavonian pig was most affected. You know, the procedure is that when the outbreak is recorded, there is a eradication of infested animals, and there is a 3-year ban of pig farming. So many of the breeders are now on hold, and I'm sure that many of them will never go back for this business. And those who will, they will have to invest. They will have to invest to increase the biosecurity measures, double fencing, and other things. So this is for example, this is for now the main challenge for not just for the local breeds, but also for the other pig breeders, other breeds which are bred in the Croatia, and especially in that area. And next, please. If I have just a few more minutes, I will just present you the current researches which are done within the Geronimo project. There is, of course, this survey which Andreia mentioned, and in Croatia there is only the pig breeders or pig sector stakeholders were interviewed. And what are the common features for all these countries, all these stakeholders? Some conclusions that they are all aware of preserving genetic diversity and preventing inbreeding. They are all interested in selection despite these obstacles and feasibility issues, and they want to improve reproduction and to increase productivity. So these are similar problems across the countries. Next. On our youngest local breed, which is Banyan spotted pig, there are still a lot of work which needs to be done in terms of characterization of meat quality, products, development of products, protection of products, and etc. So we also did some research on the intramuscular fat content, and you can see here that the reasons are quite good. There is a high average percentage of intramuscular fat, which gives a good basis for the promotion of the breed in terms of quality of meat, etc. Next. And of course, we did some genotyping. For example, this was one small pilot study which was done with the Kmetiški Institute in Slovenia cooperation, and you can see here that there are some polymorphisms in genes related to growth and fatness or meat quality. And you can see, next please, you can see here that there are selection possibilities for polymorphism that segregate at intermediate frequencies. So there is a base for some selection if it will be applied in some selection programs in the future. Next, and regarding genetic diversity for Banija spotted and Turopolje pig, you can see quite a good level of genetic diversity, and in both breeds, especially in Banija spotted pig, and also negative inbreeding coefficients, which indicates actually a good implementation of current breeding programs and mating plans. Also, we provided the data for epigenotyping, which is now in progress. So we will see the results in the next period. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hey, Daniel, thank you very much for your presentation. And so now we will move on to the last one, to Andreia's presentation.
Hello?
Yes, Andreia.
The presentation is on the monitor. Is everything okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The Krško-Polje pig from the bottom up. It is Slovenian only autochthonous pig breed. It is most common. It was most common in 1850s in Lower Carniola region. This is the pinky market area. First, it was named Rorman in the end of 19th century. In 1970s, it was prohibited breed by Yugoslavian government. And in 1993, it was start of rebuilding or starting for breeding this pig breed. At start, there were only 3 breeders with 30 sows and 5 boars. Then the number of pigs slowly rises, and now we have altogether about 500 sows with on 100 farms, which have about 6 boars. The farms are spread through all the Slovenia, so the danger of African swine fever or something else could not affect very much on pig breed because of maybe some diseases. The Krško-Polje pig breed is quite fertility. As you can see, they have about 10 or even more piglets per liter. Of course, depends from the breeder. We have altogether 6,000 piglets per year, and we produce 600 tons of meat per year. We have different promotions. You can see on these pictures in the museum, and some art outside of the restaurants and playing grounds outside of the restaurants. And then there is a picture when they prepare food for people, and also presentation of our agri-mese in Slovenia. This is our group of co-workers, my co-workers, which all dressed correctly, official dressed for promotion. And we have in last 5 years more than 3 million advertisements in printed media, 20 television promotions, 40 on-farm presentations, and at least 30 promotions on different public events. Altogether brings to the very high prices of meat of Krško-Polje pig breed, also the sausages and salami and so on, prosciutto also. As you can see on this picture, the price of fresh meat by the Interspar is about 40 euros per kilogram. Also, here you can see 22 euros per 650 grams. So the price about 44 euros per kilogram. All the best restaurants should have meat from Karolyi pig breed if they wish to get the name of the best of restaurant. Because of big prices, there are some procedures who cheated. Because of our president knows, get the information that this is possible, that some reproductive companies cheated. So the president says that we must have the procedure from which we can get the information if some of the part of chain cheated. So we manage this control mechanism by sampling of fresh meat or prepared dish by and genotyping by neogen. Then we get the information from neogen and sent to biotechnical faculty department, zootechnical department, where the results of genotyping of meat compare to other genotyping information of Karolyi pig breed, and they said, and they say if it is confirmed that it is Karolyi pig breed, then we get the information of father and mother of pig, which is in some meal. When it is not the Karolyi pig breed in this meal, then we get information which breed is behind this pig cert as a Karolyi pig breed. Then we create also a second way for controlling. This is with isotopic and atomic basis. We can control only meat product, not the meal. When we get information, we can get also information in which region this pig was bred and then slaughtered and put in some products. Thank you, Geronimo, that we have an option to present our story. When you come to Slovenia, taste Karolyi pig.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation and for the overview. And so now I think we will move to the open discussion. And I already saw that there was a question for Andreia antes before. So it is a question from Emmanuel, but I will also leave the floor to my colleague Chala that will be moderating this question and answer session. So, and feel free to write in the chat or to directly raise your hands to ask questions. Thank you very much.
Yes, so Emmanuel, maybe you can already, yes, ask your question directly, maybe to also other speakers as well. They could reply.
Thank you. For these days, I have some information. I'm a little farmer from Croatia. I have it Turopovic swine. I have some 10% of breeders in this area. But for me, is in case I'm in mountains and not in the flat side. And that is good because we have it lots of challenges and place to learn it. And we have some organization of our breeders, and now have initiative to reform that organization. And I try to ask you to connect me with your local organization, breeders of domestic pigs, to make a change and help us to be better and share experience in farmer level.
And you also had a question about how to bring the knowledge to Africa, as far as I remember.
Africa. Oh, no, I don't have idea. Okay,
No, I think you asked, like, from your working experience, how can genetic resource characterization be applied to local chicken and cattle populations in Africa to both support conservation and provide actionable advice to smallholder farms? Oh, it is, sorry, it's another Emmanuel.
I'm from Croatia.
Yes, Emmanuel, you can also, if you would like to ask. So, okay, you have questions? Any comments?
Oh, so I know I think maybe Andrei would supposed to be answering the first question, no, from Emmanuel. And then if you want, I can speak about a bit of what also my group is doing in African countries.
Yes, please, Andrea, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. So yes, it is possible. So for you to have an idea, so there are, so if you go to the FAO database for animal genetic diversity, you find there many African local breeds, and for most of them, the status is clearly unknown. And what we are doing, for example, in Angola, is that we are characterizing first in the different provinces. We're doing a really large sampling for sheep, goat, cattle, pig, and we also started doing for chicken in order to establish which are the real breeds. Because what happens is that the people, the local people, they call the names to the animals according to the tribe, to the humans that are related with those animals. So we really want to understand which ones are different or not. So in order to establish which are the real breeds, and afterwards we want to start a program in order to keep the genetic diversity but increase productivity. For that, we need individual animal recording, and that has started this year, also with the collaboration of Ruralbit, the company that generated GenPro and the resources that we have here in Portugal, the database. And they are implementing that in Angola for cattle. And the main actually is not the commercial cattle. It's really the cattle that is bred by for family farmers and pastoralists type of populations. So yes, so it's so it's possible. We are starting, and there are also I know of other initiatives done by other colleagues in other African countries. Regarding to chicken, for example, one thing that is happening is that there are commercial lines that are being produced and saying that are really well adapted to Africa. I'm not so sure of that. But of course, a local farmer, a family farmer, you want to feed your family, you want to be able to sell some chicken, you want to be able to sell some eggs to provide food security for your family. And people are, of course, accepting those chicken. These are big companies, and they are in Angola. They are being just provided to the farmers. So what is happening now is that we will have to go really very far away from the areas in order to find animals that can be really local. And I have real concerns of what is going to happen because if these animals don't adapt well, with the changes that are ongoing, then we would have lost the animals that don't reduce well, but they are well adapted. They don't die, and in the end they produce like less eggs, but at least they do them. So and I hope, but I am able to, if you want to contact me later, to tell a bit more about it, of what we are doing.
Thank you, Andreia. Danijel or Meta, would you like to add anything to this, or Jack, to an African perspective? But not only that, because there are also challenges in Europe for some of the local breeds, as you mentioned already in your presentation. So I think it is already a problem for most of the regions of the world. Any comments? Because we also have a comment from Baguma Solomon. Again, mentioning that the farmer groups and their application levels are not as high, or maybe the knowledge is lacking. Any recommendations?
I can only comment that what has been said, yes, it's the case. Danijel very well mentioned the challenges of African swine fever and what it represents for the breeders of local breed in Croatia. Andrei can tell perhaps some more for our breed, but the challenge, very high challenge, as you mentioned, is also the lack of knowledge. So these breeds were abandoned for many years, and they are basically untapped. So there is a lot of work to be done on those breeds.
Yes, thank you, Meta.
If I can just add, I can agree with Meta, and the point is that you have to establish the recording system for animals, and to start to have good pedigrees. This is the basis for any improvement later. So this should be done by educating the farmers and things like that. So this is my advice.
And I think maybe market could be a good incentive for the farmers to show them, especially some maybe success stories from Europe or elsewhere, maybe from Africa as well. There are some success stories.
Yes.
Because farmers usually, I think, hold on to the ideas where they see a benefit for themselves. So it is, I think, quite important. Well, it's their business. They're making money out of it. So
yes.
Yes, Emmanuel, I was going to address you to Andreia now, but go ahead.
Thank you. I must explain how farmer have that information. European Union have a regulation, big regulation, and that regulation is strictly desired. They genocide pigs in this area, and when you are farmers, that is a shock, and we have it really big problems in Croatia, but in other countries, because now farming is like gambling. I want to have a family life, not gambling life.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
think you put it really a good example. Andrei, maybe any comments on Emmanuel's?
Yes. The first most important work which we do is promotion of Karolyi pig breed meat and meals also. This is the reason why the population could rise. It is not possible to raise population without preparing, let's say, somebody to buy these products of Karolyi pig meat. So the main measure, the main work is to promote and command demand, that it could the prices rises of Karolyi pig breed. A breed can be only cultivated in the long term if there is strong demand in a higher porkage for porkage price for animals of an endangered breed. We also prevent the increase of inbreeding. We select boars to prevent inbreeding. We calculate inbreeding, and so the boar with less inbreeding is selected to include in some farm. Now we have inbreeding in a range about 7%. So the main work in last year is to represent farms against increasingly strict registration. As you can know now, as you know, there is some, especially in Slovenia, we have some government. We have government, and the first lady is vegetarian, and the first man is also try to be vegetarian. So all legislation is against the production of meat. And we have now in preparing prohibition of castration of piglets by farms. And this will cause a lot of cost for farms, and also the dangerous of coming some disease on the farm. So the next thing which is in preparing is the prohibition of cages of sows. I don't know how to say in English. The sow could be in some cage to prevent that piglets will die when sow get tired and fall down, let's say. So this is some big issue lately, and if we manage these issues, then population, of course, for pig breed will rise on.
I understand you. We have some different population in the same sector because regulation and connection in the field, institution and farmers, and do it some job together. Like if castration, do it we together, and let's you show us, and let's we make some standards. And in that case, I think that people in office be having some other perspective. What is really farmer life, and not too many paragraphs and make it life. I don't gorak. Thank you for attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andreia?
Thank you. So I'm just going to lower hand. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment related with this. So during my talk, so if it wasn't so for the EU programs for breed conservation, they were very important in the beginning. We wouldn't have what we have today here in Portugal. So we have for cattle breeds and for sheep breeds, we have good pedigrees. They're all paternity testing with using microsatellites, and we are working to shifting for SNP testing so that we can just use a large SNP panel, and we do and then we do generate data for selection in the future as well as for paternity testing and evaluate breeding parameters, etc. But there is now some legislation and some EU rules that are some contradictory regarding the conservation of animal breeds, and that I think it would be important to be addressed. For example, so one good niche market for local breeds is the organic production. But if farmers are in organic production, they cannot use reproductive technologies. Simple as synchronized estrus for artificial insemination, and this doesn't make the product not organic, in my perspective. And of course, I think there should be an effort in order to find a commitment of protocols for astrosynchronization that could be used, that in order to attain also, I know there are concerns regarding animal welfare, but so I think it's important to address this, because using reproductive technologies is something that we can use to improve productivity of local breeds. If local breeds are not do not have a niche market, it's not just with conservation measures that we're going to keep them. They need to be produced and they need to be eaten. Sorry. Marketed, yeah, that's better, a better word for that. And I think it's really crucial also to increase genetic diversity. For example, for Gavunesa cattle, we have still a problem with inbreeding level. We have a bank where we could go and get semen from older bulls that have never been used, for example, right? And we could synchronize the estros, and we could do things more efficiently. So I think there could be some exceptions for local breeds that are important to be discussed and are important to be included.
Thank you, Andreia. Maybe I can ask Jack, because he worked with cattle, so we can have a cattle perspective, even though most of the breeds were from Northwest Europe, I think. Maybe some from France were southern, but Jack, of course, you looked in a very strict, I mean, in a very limited perspective, at least in your presentation, what we saw. Did I lose him? Is he off now, maybe? Are you here? Okay, I think
Jack is not here anymore.
Yes, he's offline, I think. Anyways, then maybe Northwestern Europe has a different culture of farming compared to the other parts of Europe. Every part has different problems, challenges, but I think it is maybe worth to mention first, the regulations should be also supplementing each other and not trying to ban farmers from the system, because we also need farmers, which is a very difficult job, in fact, and not everybody can take it over very easily. And the market is always also a very important incentive to have these market routes for niche products, especially for local breeds, which are not that much of a number in population-wise. So maybe I can close the session by mentioning we at the European Forum of Farm Animal Breeders, we are a member, we are an organization with European animal breeding companies and organizations that can become members. At the moment, we have a good coverage in Europe, but not from especially southeast and eastern parts. So I would recommend, if you have breeding organizations that are interested in taking part in FAP, you can always email us as well, because we need to also have diversity of voices in our organization to better represent the sector in Brussels and in other arenas. So thank you very much for all your input. And Emmanuel, thank you very much. Your input was really important. And to our speakers, and of course, the projects that supported this research. So we have a fourth webinar upcoming. When was the date, Remark? For 10th of June, was it?
10th of June, yes, correct.
Yeah, so please keep following our social media channels from Geronimo, Rumigen, Holoruminant, doesn't matter. And hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.